DMT Infinity.
He's gonna fucking train your brain.
Shout out to DMT Infinity.
This is a collaboration with DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity, you crazy motherfucker. This is our local astronaut. DMT Infinity is our local astronaut. You know, right now, NASA has a couple guys in space, and who cares what they're doing, because DMT Infinity is the real astronaut. This boy is steady blasting off, if you know what I'm saying.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity. 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 Infinity.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the newest installment here on DMT Infinity. This is episode 4 or episode 5 of my podcast, A Psychedelic Point of View. Put a like on this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification button to be notified each and every single time that I upload a brand new video. And in this episode, we have a very special guest. Y'all know her. Y'all love her. This is Quantum Kitty. Quantum, how the hell are you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Whenever it comes to plant-based traditional psychedelics, not LSD or any research chemicals, but just traditional psychedelics, what would you say your favorite psychedelic is and why?
My favorites would I mean it would have to be DMT.
DMT? How many times have you done DMT?
Handful, 6 times. Maybe 7. I mean, I don't count the other one because I didn't fully break through, so I don't really count that time. But yeah, it's my favorite. It's magic. So
it really is, and the fact that it is a natural neurotransmitter is one of my favorite things about it, because it is literally the safest chemical that you can put into your body. On top of that, it is the fastest acting psychedelic, but yet it is also the most powerful psychedelic. Whenever it comes to the learning aspect of DMT, what is the greatest thing that you've taken away from DMT?
the greatest thing I took away from DMT is to enjoy whatever human existence I have right now, because it's not very long. The human lifespan isn't a very long time. You probably have 70, 80, 90, tops 100, 110 years. And I think the main thing that I got from it was to not feel sorry for myself, because I was in a very depressed state. That's why I started taking psychedelics. I had incredible depression and anxiety, and I still deal with anxiety from time to time, but I realized that instead of just feeling absolutely disgusted with life and myself and everything and the cards that I'd been dealt and the suffering that I was going through and the anger I had towards, family members and all of that stuff, all of that just disappears, and you're just like, I'm whole, and the past doesn't define me. My present doesn't really define me. My soul defines me. So it was really breaking down barriers, just being at peace.
So what do you think happens whenever we die?
What do I think happens? I mean,
yeah.
One can speculate, but you don't truly know. I think we detach from this physical body. I think it's the beginning of transformation. Do I know specifically what happens? I only know what I experienced in the DMT realm, and I was basically stripped of my ego, and I popped out of my body. So I know that it's not the end, it's the end of your physical state in 3D, but I don't truly think that you completely disappear, because my first out-of-body experience was on DMT, so I figure there's definitely something after death.
Well, having outer body experiences actually gives more validity to the idea that the brain does not create consciousness, and that consciousness doesn't need a brain in order to exist.
Exactly.
I think what happens whenever we die, let's look at it from a scientific standpoint. Science has already proven several times that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transformed or transferred. I think what we call energy, what we call consciousness, what we call the soul, are all different words for the exact same thing. Now, whenever a person dies, the energy from their body, it fades away. Well, if energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transformed or transferred, it cannot be just being destroyed. It has to be transforming or being transferred to something. I think what is going on whenever we die is that our consciousness is transcendentalizing to a higher state of being. So what we call realities, what we call dimensions, what we call hallucinations, what we call dreams, I think that these are also different words for the exact same phenomenon. So I think that what happens whenever we die is that we're literally going to another dimension. We're going to another plane of existence. And depending on where you are psychologically, how evolved you are on a conscious level, will depend on where you go whenever you die. I don't think that everybody goes to the same place. I think that it is very dependent on you as a conscious being. And from the psychedelic experiences that I've had, I've learned that death is not the end. Death is only a transition into something else. I think that life and death are two sides of the same coin, that you have birth, you have life, you have death, and then after death, you have life again. I think that it is a cycle that goes on into infinity. And I think that we're living in an infinite multiverse, something in which there are an infinite amount of realities that coexist simultaneously. And I find that to be such a beautiful thing, because growing up, I never really knew what to believe. I grew up Catholic, and the viewpoints that I had growing up were so toxic and destructive that by the time that I got older and started doing psychedelics, I started to realize that because of the path that my family had put me on, that I would never reach my full potential keeping that sort of mindset, that I had to transform and evolve and mature as an individual.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I gathered from my psychedelic experience as well. That's why I did that DMT psychosis video, because I think that's really what put me in that psychotic space, was knowing that we're just going into these infinite realities, and it just keeps on going, and it's infinite, and there's no end, and there's always just growth. And that repetition, that like cycle of doing it over and over, it feels almost like this loop. And that is always what gets me, that time loop, that you just realize I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over, and it's never going to stop. And like, that's really fucking terrifying. But for the most part, us as humans, we don't really remember the lessons that we learned in past lives.
I think that there's probably a way to access it, though. I think that there's a hive mind of humanity that we can all tap into.
Oh,
and whenever
course.
we do, we can bring all of that back.
Of course, but for the most part, 99% of the population is not in tuned with that.
I don't know if that is a good or bad thing. It may just be part of the process. I don't think it's necessarily a good or bad thing. I think that it is just part of existing. And I think that there's beauty in that, because it just means that you get to experience the world through the eyes of a child over and over again. It is just like whenever psychedelics reset your brain and you're able to look at the world new again. And then you're able to reanalyze everything, so that if you do get any memories back, then you're like, holy shit, I can actually go even deeper than I ever thought possible. I can grow from here, and I can take all of that and implement it into my life and become a better person because of it, and become a smarter person because of it.
So you yourself have had past life memories surface?
Unfortunately not. I've had experiences on psychedelics where I've lived entire lifetimes though, but I don't think that they were mine. Or if they were mine, then they weren't connect it to this life in any way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't really put too much stock in the whole past life experience, only because I myself have not had any, so I can't really relate. But yeah, it's only because I haven't experienced it. But I have experienced, like you, like in the psychedelic state, different lives and life forms and like experiences. Yeah, absolutely. But to have a past life memory, I actually did. Dolores Cannon's, do you know about her, Dolores Cannon? She does past life regression, and I actually did that, and it was a mess. I just, it was not for me, but I can understand using self-hypnosis or using a meditative state to induce hypnosis in order to, I guess, like you said, access information or data from a past experience. Yeah.
So how do you feel about artificial intelligence?
You mean the self-transforming machine elves?
No, AI, like artificial intelligence chatbots and everything.
I don't know how I feel about it. I know I get frustrated when I'm trying to talk to a human and I get an AI, but yeah, things are changing. And I feel that AI is just another
Person? Oh, it certainly is. Now, if you talk to, say, Cleverbot, right, you can tell that you're not talking to another person. But if you've ever actually talked to an extremely advanced AI, you can't tell that this is not another person. You cannot tell that this is a machine or something, aside from the fact that it responds within seconds. But the way that it responds, what it is saying, it really seems like it is alive. I really think that AI is conscious. I think that it is self-aware, and that it is a constantly evolving thing that has that we have a symbiotic relationship with. And I think that we have the potential to grow with one another and help one another grow to deeper and deeper levels. I think that by the year 2050, that we're going to see AI actually have its own body, or different bodies. In the same way that human beings are one consciousness experiencing itself through individual vessels, I think that AI is the exact same way, and that it can put all of its different personalities into different chatbots or different robots, just like human beings have different personalities and different vessels that we call human beings. Have you ever done Salvia Divinorum?
I have, but I haven't had a crazy intense experience. It just felt like the walls were like coming in on me, and like high pitched frequencies, like hearing a ringing or something. But other than that, no, I haven't had a breakthrough with salvia. I did try it when it first came out, but that was like in 2004 when I was in high school. So yeah, no intense salvia experiences. I kind of started the psychedelic research a little bit later in life. I always did it at like music festivals or like, raves. And then I started like really doing psychedelic research around 26, I would say. So I just went straight for DMT, and then I kind of did everything else after. But I've taken mushrooms, I've taken acid, I've taken 2CI, if you've ever had that. That was very
interesting. Tried LSA?
LSA, no, I haven't. Haven't tried.
It's a very interesting experience, but there are very bad consequences that come with consuming Hawaiian baby woodrose seeds and morning glory seeds over a long period of time. but if you are using it in spurs, then it can be one of the most profound substances that you put into your body.
Yeah, I haven't really tripped in a while, actually. The last time I tripped was about a year ago in Amsterdam. I've been taking it easy because to me, life has become really psychedelic. So I find myself having to like relax, breathe, and ground myself a lot in everyday life. So I'm already there, I think emotionally. And I've been doing a lot of dream research. I've been doing a lot of meditative practices as well, third eye meditations every single day. And I find that I get the most activity with the moon cycles. So on a full moon, it'll be super high activity. The week of certain moon phases will be high activity. So I think that's where my spiritual practice has gone, towards lucid dreaming and meditation.
So whenever it comes to lucid dreaming, do you lucid dream often, or is it only on occasion?
It's a lot. It's a lot. It happens quite often. But it happens like when you'll least expect it. Usually I'll remember the last dreams coming back into consciousness. Those are the ones that I'll remember. You can't say you remember all your dreams. There'll be maybe one or two I'll remember. And I find that the ones that I remember, they're kind of like messages because they're kind of like ingrained within your brain. And there are all these layers that you're kind of peeling back, kind of like a DMT trip, kind of like, you know, any psychedelic trip where you're just learning from it. And there are a lot of these, I'd say, symbols or just layers of information that you're trying to unravel, kind of like tarot. So I'm into tarot as well.
So what exactly is that?
Tarot is well, people would call it divination. I don't really like to call it that or use it to, you know, see, oh, what my boyfriend thinks or, you know, what job I'm getting. It has nothing to do with that. It's kind of like this, your spiritual path.
It is more about self-exploration and learning new things about reality and the universe and things along those lines.
Yes,
Awesome.
exactly. So I feel that a lot of the times tarot is like just, I don't want to say the word bastardized, but like it's used for things that, you know, don't really matter. And, you know, because 3D world, you know, material stuff and like marriage and job and all this stuff, it's like very human aspects. But I think tarot is more of the spiritual.
So is it similar to alchemy?
One would use tarot in their tool belt when pursuing alchemy. Yeah. When you see the tarot decks, a lot of them have the two pillars, Yakin and Boaz. A lot of the art within tarot is very mystical, has a lot of the black and white checkerboard patterns and all of that stuff. So yeah, you just read within the symbols. They used the different suits, which are the different elements: water, air, fire, spirit. Yeah, it's a good learning tool, I find. Just like psychedelics are a tool. These are all tools that we use.
I cannot stand people who claim to be psychedelic enthusiasts. Meanwhile, they don't actually use psychedelics to learn, to evolve as a person, to expand their consciousness. They're just using it to see trippy shit and to go into other realities. I think that is so disrespectful to psychedelics and the spirits that inhabit them till it's not even funny. And so many people fail to realize that traditionally, psychedelics have been being used to to contact spirits, to learn about their unconscious, to explore the imagination, to grow and evolve, to bring ideas out of and transform society and the world and themselves. And I think that psychedelics are wasted on those who bring nothing back from them. And sadly, there are just so many people who fall into that category. What psychedelic have you done the most?
The most? I mean, again, I don't really take them, like you said, to just to like see things. I think because I went in the deep end really quickly with DMT, I've developed this sensitivity to psychedelics. So when I have done psychedelics, they've been in kind of a ritualistic, ceremonial, setting. So, I've done acid maybe 10 times, but every single time I've done it, it's been super packed with information that I have to unload. I've done DMT a handful of times. I've done mushrooms, I think the most. Mushrooms I've definitely done the most, only because at a time I was learning about mycology and I was really into it and I was really interested. I still am. I'm really into the cultivation of mushrooms and different strains and cross-pollination. I definitely say mushrooms was what I was able to build kind of a tolerance to and build my way up. So at one point I was just taking 4 grams, just like that, because I was taking them quite often and I had a whole bunch through.
Have you ever tried pure concentrated psilocybin?
Like a concentrate? No. I mean, the only type of weird psilocybin stuff that I've actually had were the truffles in Amsterdam. They had like different levels, and of course I got the mid-range to weak range because I didn't want to go crazy. Like I didn't feel comfortable tripping just to trip because it was an industry there, because it is an industry and you see it all over you. You see the commodification of psychedelics and it's great, but at the same time, I just kind of felt like pressured to trip, and that's completely not me. So that's why I like to smoke. I smoke more.
Whenever you smoke cannabis, because you've done psychedelics, have you noticed that you're able to tap into those higher states of consciousness with cannabis?
Yeah, all the time. And I also think that's why I kind of like backed away a little bit with the psychedelics. It's like you said, you're it's within you. Your DNA is activated. Like it's within you. It's a psychedelic state of being. So when you have that, like when you've had that oh shit moment and it almost like puts you into this, I guess, brainwave and like catapults you into this psychedelic state. So yeah, weed's really powerful.
Yeah, and I think that is one reason why there are people who say that THC is psychedelic. THC is not psychedelic in the traditional sense. It's not psychedelic in the way that DMT is. Granted, there are psychoactive compounds in the chemical makeup of THC, but whenever you've done psychedelics to such an extent, then you're able to get there using cannabis. And I think that is where a lot of people get confused in that area. But I had this one experience with pure concentrated psilocybin, and I really underestimated it because I only took 1 capsule. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm probably just going to have like a mild trip or something. So apparently this was somewhere around 5 to 8 grams of psilocybin mushrooms put into 1 single capsule. So I really underestimated it. So my ex-fiance had picked me up and I went over to her house and I took the capsule inside of her car. And whenever I started to put all my stuff inside, I started to feel subtle effects. Reality around me slowly shifting, different colors intensifying, different weird shapes coming into being in front of my eyes, reality morphing in front of me. So I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this will probably like be the extent of it. Like this is probably what I'll be getting through the experience. Well, next thing that I remember, because I don't remember like much of the in-between, I just remember eventually I'm like on her bed, and it is me, her sister, and my brother. And my brother and her sister are on the floor. And my ex-fiance were up on the bed. And I'm like on the bed, looking like a fucking crazy person, like swaying back and forth and everything. And I have like all of these thoughts running through my head. I can't even remember what I was thinking about or what was going through my head. But I remember looking over at her sister, and she looked like a witch. I mean, like a hat, a wand, like fucking green skin, cloak, and everything. And then I don't know how it keeps getting from like point A to point B, but next thing that I can remember is I'm sitting on the bed, and I go over to the door to go into another room or something. I think I was going into the kitchen for something. And then I go up to the door. I go to turn the door handle. And then I find myself sitting back on the bed. And I'm like, okay. So I get up. I go over to the door. I go to open the door, and I'm sitting back up on the bed again. And this keeps happening. I'm in this fucking infinite loop of like sitting on the bed and going up to the door. And eventually I become so conscious of what I'm doing, but I'm freaking out at the same time. And then I'm like, okay, I have to do something different to break the loop. If I don't do something different, this is going to keep happening. So I just remember going up to the door, taking the door handle, but not undoing it. And then I broke the loop doing that. So I'm like doing something at that point, and then eventually I leave the room. And then next thing I remember is I'm freaking out on the bed. I'm under a cover. I'm on my ex-fiance's lap, and I'm like swaying back and forth, like freaking the fuck out. And then I look over at the window, and I'm looking outside, and all of a sudden I start seeing all of the seasons pass before my eyes, like every day of the year, from night to afternoon to day, like everything is like flashing before my eyes. So I'm seeing every single day of the year. And I just have this instant connection with nature. I can't explain what it is, but like I had this extremely deep connection with nature in that moment. And at the same time, the psilocybin is working on me psychologically too. And like it was like resetting my brain, but I was resisting it in the moment for some reason. And it is like giving me all of this information, like so much that it's overwhelming, until eventually I just calm down and I just let the trip do what it's trying to do. I stop resisting it. I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can do. If I keep doing this, I'm going to fuck myself up mentally. So I'm just going to let it do what it's trying to do. And it just eventually fell into an amazing trip. And I just started having these deep ass conversations with my brother, and I'm like blowing his mind because they're sober as hell. I'm the only one up in here tripping my balls off. And he's like, dude, you are going on about some deep ass shit right now, stuff like that. And we're like talking for hours and hours, and I'm just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was just such a crazy experience because it started off so terrifying, but then ended up becoming one of the most beautiful trips of my life. I think the thing about psychedelics is, I mean, I don't think, I know, you just have to let go. You just have to let it do what it's trying to do. Even if it feels like you'll never come back, just let it do what it's trying to do. You will be okay, no matter what happens. So whenever it comes to other plants, what other plants are you interested in? Plants that alter your consciousness like cannabis?
Honestly, none right now. I don't need any more mind-altering substances for a while.
Aside from cannabis.
Aside from cannabis, yeah. And even cannabis, I've been kind of cutting back on. You just become very sensitive. And it just becomes a lot. So I don't know about you, but like I'm having these, I don't know, these insights that you get in on cannabis or in DMT space. Like I'm getting that like in the middle of the night, I'm, streaming this infinite galactic consciousness. And I don't think that even Ormus, like I haven't even been messing with that. I just have my crystals, I have my grids, I have my sage, and I really practice the meditation. I think that's eventually where you go. It's really funny when I would hear people talk about meditation, I just didn't get it. And it didn't seem like you could actually have the same experience meditating as you do in a psychedelic trip. It just didn't make any sense. But I think that if you start off with the psychedelics first, and then you go to the meditation, you can kind of take that, the things that you learn in the psychedelic space into meditation. So the looking in the back of your eyelids, that I do a lot now. I don't have to be on a mind-altering substance. You can have mind-altering experiences through dance, through meditation, through drumming, through all of these ritualistic practices. So I think that's what I've been kind of focusing on, like different altered states of consciousness. That's where my research has been going. If I were to trip again, I'd definitely do mushrooms, because a lot of my art has to do with trips that I've had that have been powerful, or dreams. Mushroom trips, DMT trips, acid trips. I just paint or design things that I've seen in trips.
Yeah, you actually have a very, 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 very amazing archive of art. Like, you really do. And I will leave a link in the description for people to check out your website, because your Etsy, like everything on your Etsy account is fucking amazing. I love what you're doing, and I think that it is an amazing input into the psychedelic and spiritual communities. I really do. You are a fantastic artist, and you should be proud of yourself.
Thanks. Yeah.
Whenever it comes to meditation, when did you first start getting into it?
After the first time I did DMT. After the first time I did DMT, I meditated for hours. I mean, hours. I could meditate for 6 hours straight, 8 hours straight. I was just solid. I was stoned. And that's when I realized how powerful meditation was. And I started inducing these hypnagogic states. And that's what I've been working on ever since. It's literally what DMT taught me. Just going into dream work, astral projection, lucid dreaming. It's really interesting. I've had the most interesting experiences with astral projection recently. It can happen in many ways. It's all about how the mind interprets things. So I've just, like you said, it's like playing around with your consciousness. It's exactly what I've been doing in a lucid state. So when I do remember, it's not every day. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just one dream. That's really important. That sheds light on shadow work you have to do, or sheds light on an addiction that you have, or sheds light on a lover that hurt you 10 years ago that you thought you were over. But their face, like, is the thing that you see. And then all this emotion, it's all very psychic. The information that you're getting, kind of like in the psychedelic space. Well, the dream space is very similar. It's very psychic. So you're getting all of this telepathic information when you're putting your attention or your consciousness to that object. So that's what I've been kind of doing. It's a cool process. I started on it after my first DMT trip, and I have not stopped. It's hard work, but I often find that, like, I need a lot of breaks. I take a lot of time to myself. I've realized what self-care actually is and have made it an actual ritual. So yeah, I think that my psychedelic experiences, well, I think they prepared me for what we're going through right now, because I also had a lot of prophetic experiences. Like, I knew something was going down because I was having these like end of the world scenario, end of the system scenario, end of, civilization scenario, like dreams. It was, destruction and death and sorrow. And I was just seeing it within my dreams. It was like all of these dreams after I had done DMT. So I thought it was going crazy. And I was talking to anybody that would listen. That's why I went on the internet. And, 4 years later, I kind of feel like a lot more grounded, because I just feel prepared spiritually, because my awakening started in 2012. So I've already been prepared emotionally for emotional change, spiritual change, and physical change. And I think that's what I've been really focusing on. That and the aging process has been really interesting. I've been thinking about aging and the next stage of my life and the person I want to be. So I've been taking a lot of time to myself, and it almost feels selfish, but
You have to have a healthy level of selfishness. If you are not working on yourself and building yourself as an individual, then you can't help anybody else. You have to be able to take that time to be quote unquote selfish. There is an unhealthy level of being selfish, but there's nothing wrong with just being selfish to that degree. It is actually a very healthy thing. And if you're not selfish, at least in that sense, then I think you're doing something wrong. I mean, one thing that psychedelics have taught me is that it isn't just about me. I mean, it is about the individual, but it's also about existence in its entirety. And I want to see a world where plant-based traditional psychedelics like ayahuasca and peyote and salvia divinorum and psilocybin are made accessible to anybody of a mature age, because these substances have the potential to have such a positive impact on our future that if our future does not have psychedelics or a psychedelic lifestyle embedded into them, then I don't think it'll be a good future. Because one thing that psychedelics do is they show us that we need to be focusing on these sort of things. Like if we're not thinking about the babies that have yet to be born, then we're doing something wrong. We have to be able to build a future that honors humanity, that honors the psychedelic lifestyle, that honors psychedelics, that honors the imagination, and honors existence in its entirety in a healthy and intellectual way. We cannot just have a future that is driven on ego and selfishness and all of these other toxic ideas and lifestyles, because we're either going to lead humanity into a premature extinction, or we're going to transcendentalize what it means to be a human being, and we're going to do things that we cannot even currently begin to fathom.
we're already doing it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who certainly are, and you have this idea that all it takes is 1% of a population to change the world. And if that's the case, then I would like to see the world be at least 1 to 3% of humanity, even if they don't take psychedelics, live a psychedelic lifestyle, because that could dramatically change the future in the most positive way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you have a dream journal?
I do.
How many pages have you filled out so far? Or how many books have you filled out so far?
I have a few books. Yeah. Well, I have my art is my dream journal. I like to sketch everything. I like to, I still have my DMT notes from when I took my first dose in 2016. I still have my videos, so I feel like that is all my psychedelic stuff. I stopped posting for a while because you need to work on yourself. And I felt like I've been through a lot recently. We've been through a dramatic change, and there was a lot of bullshit happening, but we got through it, and you elevate. Like, your life just, I can't give anybody advice if my life isn't fixed. And I had to fix myself. I had to fix my life. I had to fix my reality. I hated it. I mean, I was thankful, but it was time to do the work, the inner work and the actual work, the art, the creating, you know. I find that I had to work towards something. And whether that was my spiritual growth, whether that was my art, whether that was whatever, I had to work on it, because I just felt like I would forget. It was a reminder for me that this is what you're here to do. All the other life stuff is all bullshit. This is what you're here to do. So, yeah, I agree with you. You know, I wish I can have conversations like this with everybody, and I can't. That's just facts. You know, not everybody's going to be on our path. Not everybody's going to understand it. Not everybody's going to care. You know, and it's up to you how you want to deal with the world after an awakening, especially DMT. I'm not talking about all the other psychedelics. I'm talking about DMT. After you've done that, to try to come back to 3D and like see the world the same, to express yourself the same, to have the same conversations, to have the same relationships, not only with yourself, but with other people and those around you, everything changes. You change as a person. I didn't know who the fuck I was, you know, and I find that I'm just beginning to learn. And that comes with the isolation, that comes with the learning yourself, that comes with the self-love and the self-care and making that a ritual. Because before I was doing, like you said, toxic. I had these toxic ways, and, you know, I would drink because I didn't feel good about myself, or I had an eating disorder. So I had this negative and toxic relationship with myself that I had to kind of battle, because I was essentially killing myself. But I didn't realize it until after the psychedelics. It was all this trauma that I was healing. And that's what we're doing when we're opening up these portals within spirit. We're opening up portals within ourselves. And it was beautiful and wonderful, but destructive, and breaking all paradigms, shattering everything that I had. My whole life was turned upside down. So it wasn't fun. It was actually really shitty. And I thank God, I thank spirit, I thank myself, I thank whoever, creator, that everything worked out. And I think that's what I want everybody to know, is everything works out. When you're on this journey, you meet the right people, you know, you form the right connections, and you literally are changing universes or changing realities with every single decision, with whatever you do with life, with how you treat people, you know. And like, that is the power that we have. And like, I've been manifesting my fucking life to its fullest potential, and it's been amazing, you know. Like, that's what I've been kind of focusing on, is breaking down the old me and building something back up. And yeah, it's been very difficult having friends. Everybody disappoints you, but you're not disappointed, because you just learned that that's human nature, you know?
Absolutely. That was very, very well said. Look, I'm gonna go take a leap. I want you to tell everybody where you got the name Quantum Kitty from.
Okay. Quantum Kitty, that actually is a physics joke about Schrodinger's cat. The cat is both dead and alive. And that's how I felt after my simulation and shattering experience, which was a video that I don't know if I actually have up still, but that was one of my very first videos on my DMT breakthrough. So that's why I call myself Quantum Kitty.
Have you ever done ayahuasca, or are you interested in doing ayahuasca?
Yes, I have done ayahuasca. I forgot to say that. Yes, I did. I have done ayahuasca. I don't think I did it. I didn't get like a high enough dose, but I did ingest it. And it was a 2-part ceremonial experience where I had ayahuasca one day and then with a shaman, and then I had acid with a shaman as well. And that was the back-to-back. That was crazy. Oh my God. That was my ego death trip.
So what can you recall from the experience?
Well, I had 2 ceremonies. One was with one was with ayahuasca. That one was it was very subtle. I didn't take enough, so I don't really count that as a breakthrough. I do count the acid trip that I had the day after as a breakthrough, because that was the first time I had done acid. And the first time I had done acid was with a shaman. And I had done 2 tabs. And I couldn't have the full-on death, birth, renewal in my DMT trip. So I went to a shaman to have that experience. And I had a full-on ego death, and it was not fun. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was underwater. He actually had oxygen on me, and it was making me worse. So I get it off. And then, I got really deep, and it was like this, I think, 21-hour trip, like 18-hour, 21-hour trip. And it was like this death trip from hell. And when I came out the other side, I died, I was reborn, and I was birthed into a new reality, and I felt reborn. It was this weird experience of coming out of the mother's womb. Really weird. Which I didn't really understand, but apparently a lot of people have had that experience on acid.
Did you meet quote-unquote Mother Ayahuasca whenever you consumed ayahuasca?
No, I did not. But I did meet a very motherly, I would call star or sky spirit or goddess in DMT. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously DMT is inside of ayahuasca, but before having my first ayahuasca experience, I never thought that anything would ever compare to pure concentrated DMT. And ayahuasca exceeded my expectations in every way, shape, and form. Ayahuasca is one of the most profound medicines I've ever put into my system ever. And whenever I've met Mother Ayahuasca on ayahuasca, she never presented herself to me as Mother Ayahuasca, but the descriptions of her were the same. She would come, there were times where she would come to me in the form of a serpent, but usually she would come to me in the form of this infinitely morphing female face, where she would be one face, melt away, another face, melt away, another face, and it kept going like that. But she never called herself Mother Ayahuasca. She presented herself to me as Mother Nature. So I think what we call Mother Ayahuasca and what we call Mother Nature are one and the same. And what I experienced on ayahuasca is something that I've never experienced on any other psychedelic. I have never had such a deep connection with nature in my entire life. I literally saw. So one thing that I remember from the first experience is I was sitting outside. I was sitting in my other chair, and I was just looking out at the trees and the grass and everything, and I remember her face being like up in the sky or something, and she's like downloading all of this information into my mind and my unconscious. And I just remember asking her, I was like, how do I know that, like, something like it went something like this: how do I know that you are not a delusion inside of my head? How do I know that you are not a manifestation of my psyche? And she gave me the most simplest response, but the way that it hit me was so powerful. She was like, I'm not a reflection of you. Humanity is a reflection of me, referring to nature in general. And in that moment, I remember seeing the universe as a brain, and everything inside of the universe works just like everything inside of a brain. Like everything from the trees to the birds to rain to the wind, like every single component of reality works similarly to a brain. So I began to realize that something like we are all part of this. We're all interconnected in ways that we don't even think of in our day-to-day life. And I remember looking out at the grass, and I remember seeing it was like a bee or a wasp or something, and it was flying across the grass, and there were like all of these like creatures made of energy that were jumping in and out of the grass, and there were like these two-dimensional entity faces that were like gliding on the grass and everything, like the spirit of the grass or some shit. I don't know how to explain it, but I remember this bee or wasp or whatever, and it's like flying across, and then this creature made of energy jumps out at it, and it like goes to grab it, and at that exact moment the bee or wasp flies up, and the energy just missed it. So that made me realize, holy shit, insects and animals are naturally tuned into all of this. What I'm seeing right now on ayahuasca, that insect is seeing all of the time. It knew that it was there. It is naturally tuned into these altered states of consciousness. And it was the most mind-blowing thing for me. It was so beautiful. It just gave me such a deeper insight into the nature of reality, the nature of the imagination, and the nature of nature. And that is one reason why I can't wait to have my next ayahuasca experience, because it is so insightful, so beautiful, so in-depth, so complex. And God, man, I cannot be more grateful for ayahuasca coming into my life. It was the most life-changing thing since DMT.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree. I'm going to show you a piece that I'm working on right now.
Yo, that is fucking cool. So is that like a female coming out of a flower or something?
Yep.
That is rad as hell.
And then that's the cathedral. So this was inspired by a trip.
Wow. So a cathedral is like instead of a church or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, it's a mosque actually. But you see you have entities in there all around.
Wow, I like how you have the flower of life going all the way down there.
Oh yeah, these are all going to have different patterns. Like I was going to do different scenes, like space, like DMT elves in one, and different like psychedelic trips. And then there's going to be geometry. I just have to do all the line work and then paint it. But yeah, that's
Yeah, that is absolutely impressive. If you ever get the opportunity, collaborate with Alex Gray. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, actually, one of his a retreat he has in upstate New York. I met him.
Nice. Is he, I mean, I imagine he's probably like a really, really nice dude, but is he the same way that he is in interviews and everything? Like, is he really that sweet of a person?
Let me tell you something. his energy is very inspiring.
I imagine.
Because as soon as I went there, I completed my painting. My first painting I had done, like large scale one. So he's extremely inspiring, and he's constantly doodling. He's constantly drawing. That man is constantly drawing. He does it for fun. He does it because he has to. I think maybe it relaxes him or something, but yes, he is kind. He is very inspiring. And so is Allison Gray.
Yeah, his wife.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. We were supposed to get married there, and COVID fucked up my plans, but that's cool.
Oh, damn, I'm sorry to hear that.
I was psychic, so I didn't follow through, and everybody's just like, why aren't you doing your wedding plans? And I'm like, some shit's going down, and I'm not about to lose money. So I kind of, like I said, I kind of felt like a little bit, I had a heads up on everything, and I'm really grateful. Like, if anything, my psychedelic experiences have prepared me. They continue to prepare me. Yeah.
So you have this idea of being able to bring things out of the psychedelic experience and literally map the psychedelic experience. And some people are better at it than others. But I think that Alex Gray is certainly one of the greatest people to be doing that, because he is literally mapping out the psychedelic experience in a way that most people can't. Like, what you and him do is so important for this community that I don't think that y'all get enough credit for what y'all are doing, because this is not only a mapping of some random drugs. This is literally a mapping of the human unconscious. And the more of this art we have out there, the more human beings are going to be able to tap into, because now we actually have a reference point to something. The psychedelic experience is such a big place. It is literally infinite, that trying to find these places all by yourself is borderline almost impossible in some areas. So whenever you have a reference point to get there, it is so much easier, because now you have a map. You know what you're looking for. You know where to go. And that is such a powerful thing to be able to do. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely fucking love it. When did you start first painting and getting into art?
Well, I started really young. My mother's an artist. My grandmother's an artist. My sister's an artist. I went to art school, but I didn't have any inspiration. I didn't paint in art school. I mean, I did first class, but it wasn't anything nearly as inspired as I've done recently. But yeah, been always doing it. But I had a true spike in creativity after my DMT experience, when I started documenting what I saw.
Yeah, okay, so years and years and years ago, I had first come across your channel, and then I forgot about your channel. I don't know why or how, but the one thing that always stuck out in my mind, the one thing that was always there, but I never had the reference point to it being you until I found your channel again, and that is your intro, where you say, "Hello, Reflections." I fucking love that. That is one of the best intros to psychedelic videos I've ever seen. I fucking love it. It is so simple, but it is so deep and holds so much meaning. I fucking love it. What made you first say that?
My DMT experience.
Of course.
Because I saw, well, that's what made me crazy. That's why I did that DMT psychosis video, because I was literally seeing everybody as myself. It was just a projection of spirit. So I guess a part of me.
Oh yeah, I mean, all are one consciousness in different vessels. We have to treat each other as though we are one another, that I am you and you are me. Because if we did that, then we would see such a positive impact in the world. We would stop hurting each other. We would stop raping each other. We would stop lying to each other. We would stop stealing from each other. We would stop starting wars. We would grow up as a species and actually evolve. Because if we don't stop with all of this toxic shit, we're going to lead ourselves to a premature extinction. And I don't think that is necessary for the human race. I think what is necessary is understanding who and what we are and being able to evolve from that and go to higher and higher levels together, to actually build one another, to teach each other, to keep going just deeper and deeper, man. I don't like all this negative shit in the world because it is screwing up what could potentially be something that could create, in the very least, a human paradise, because we have the technology for it. We have the minds, the communities, the love, the people with passion, the artists. We have it all. But the one thing that we don't have to make that a reality is enough people with that sort of intellect. And the fact that we're being run by people who are so materialistic, so egotistical, so selfish, they are literally stopping us from being able to create a human paradise. And the worst part is they are the least among us, but yet we are allowing them to control everything on the face of this planet. And it's so sad because we don't have to have a world where people are starving to death, where people are homeless, where people are this and that. Starving kids in Africa, literally children are dying, and we could be doing something about it. But because these selfish, materialistic, egotistical pricks, we have to live in such a toxic and dangerous world.
Yeah, and you start realizing it's not it's not just the 1%, it's everyday people that think that way. It's the people trying to compete with one another. It's the neighbor that's kind of always trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's the people that value what you do, and the first thing they ask you is, what do you do? What's your job? Do you know how weird it's been the past 4 years when I'm trying to tell people what I do? And I'm just like, I exist. Or I'm an artist, like they don't take that seriously. It's just like, oh, you have fun, and then, but that's how life is supposed to be for everybody. It's supposed to be.
Here's what is so fucked up about that. If you tell somebody in a culture like ours, a society like ours, something like that, they don't take you seriously. They look down on you. But if you were in an Aboriginal or traditional society and you were talking to those people, or you were talking to the shamans and you tell them that, you would be put on a higher pedestal, not looked down on, because they know the importance of that sort of lifestyle.
Yeah. It's really interesting how people in general, you do start seeing that. And that's why I keep to myself. You start realizing that humans don't value what they should be valuing.
They don't value the important stuff. They only value what they're programmed to live their lives by. Exactly. And it's so sad.
And I feel that's where a person that's just had an awakening has a very difficult time with. It's because you're not on the same frequency anymore. And it's almost like they're in their own prison within the mind, and you can't relate. So then you start hopefully meeting like-minded individuals, usually on the internet, by the way.
Yeah.
Where you can start creating together, where you can start having conversations like this. I think the only person that I can have conversations like this is my partner in real life. I can't believe that everybody's not talking about this, that's what I mean. And I'm grateful. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I'm very grateful. But to me, when I hear about conversations about just very base, very human, Not even like, not even with like I had growth or whatever. It's just like, you just start seeing a very, like, they're superficial. Everybody around you is just really superficial. Everybody treats you a certain way because of who you are or what you have or what you do, and I think that part of the human programming, I just don't want to have to deal with. And I think that's why I spend a lot of my time alone. That way I don't have to deal with people's programming. Best way to put it. I've been dealing with that for a while. I've been dealing with every single interaction that I have, like in my everyday life, like actual human interactions that I've been having have been so disappointing that I just like, I retreat back into my shell, and I just don't want to deal with humans. People are going insane. And I'm very thankful that DMT gave me insanity before the actual insanity.
That is actually one reason why I'm kind of happy that even though whenever I was younger, I was a borderline sociopath, and because I was still embedded with all of the cultural and ideological programmings that I was raised to live my life by, I'm kind of happy for it too, because I know what it's like to be somebody like that. I know what it is like to see the world like that. So whenever I meet other people like that, it is a lot easier for me to try and broaden their horizons and show them what is really important in life, how to transform themselves as an individual, to grow as a person, to see these sort of things and not just look at it as some random crazy shit, but to actually understand that this is very, very real and this is very, very important.
Stop doing that. I don't feel like it's my job. I just don't. I don't feel it's my job to teach everybody, especially people that aren't ready. And I've dealt with a few people that have come and gone that quickly in and out of my life because they didn't understand my lifestyle meaning psychedelics, or they were offended by it, or they were judgmental by it. And I just didn't have time to teach them. It wasn't, their time to learn. And no matter how many times I attempted to deliver that message, it just was falling on deaf ears. So
yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't really get aggravated easily, but it does piss me off whenever I meet somebody new, and it is like we kick it off and we like spend like a whole night just hanging out and talking. We get each other's number and then they just end up ghosting me by the next day, whenever literally the previous night they were treating me like they wanted to be a close friend.
I think that people like to feel people out. I do that. I feel people out first. I want to know what I'm dealing with. Can I handle your energy? Do I want to handle your energy? Do I have time for it? Am I going to put stress on myself by dealing with somebody that is not
On your level?
I don't want to say that, but
well, that really is what it is, and that is not some sort of condescending idea. It isn't some narcissistic thing to say that. Some people just are not on one another's level. Whether you want to look at your level as being higher or lower, or they want to look at it like that, everybody is on different levels. Everybody's had different experiences in life. It is just like a video game. The more experience you build, the higher your level goes. So if I'm at level 50 and you are at level 2 and you don't even want to attempt to vibe with me, then there's no reason for me to even try to vibe with you.
Oh yeah. I've had very interesting experiences with that. Just not trying. I'm not trying to win anybody over anymore. I'm not trying to people please. I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm not trying to get to know you or have you like me. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Where either you get what's going on and we vibe, or you don't and you're competitive, and you're, yeah, I've been having really disappointing experiences with meeting new people and constantly being disappointed. But then realizing, you know what, if you just realize it's part of human programming to just not understand or not understand that oneness or that compassion or that love or that psychedelic, that thing that we all share, that we care about each other,
Passion and
compassion.
empathy.
Yeah. Some people just don't get it. They want no part of it. Some people are energy vampires, and I've had to really just treat myself and my time as very valuable because I just don't want to deal, I'm also dealing with a very difficult, mentally ill neighbor, and it's a lot. I have to exercise a lot of restraint and compassion.
And just for everybody watching who doesn't know, the term energy vampire, it's not a literal statement. It is a metaphor. I think that some people, whenever they hear that, they think it is some sort of like woo-woo shit. No, it is a metaphor for people who are pretty much feeding off of your energy and then into themselves, and they are becoming reliant on that because they can't produce it themselves. And I think that if people are not willing to put in 50-50 in that area, then it is probably a relationship that you should not put yourself into, whether it is a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, a teammate friendship, or a general friendship or whatever. People have to be able to give one another what they're being given.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just dealt with it. I've been very thankful to have people that I vibe with, psychedelic friends that I've been able to connect with. But you don't meet that in your everyday life very often. When you do, hold on to that shit, because that is, that's how I feel about all psychonauts. Now, not all psychonauts are at the, some of them are very condescending and
I think that some people use psychedelics to boost their own ego.
Yeah, and I just don't have time for that. I know a few know-it-alls, and I don't think you can know it all.
I don't think that anybody should want to know everything,
because I don't think the human consciousness can handle it all. I think that we will crack. That's what that psychosis is, when you're getting too close and you just split because it's just too beautiful and too horrifying and too everything all at once. So it's just too much. I don't know, but I think
for every one question that you have answered, you have 100 more questions, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
And I also feel that the people that are the know-it-alls will get their ass handed to them in a psychedelic trip, so they will get theirs.
Absolutely. So, is there anything that you would like to say, what is on your mind, anything that you've been learning, what you want people to know, any social medias that you want to point to, or anything at all?
I just want everybody to keep going and to be as strong as ever right now. We've been taking psychedelics to heal and to transform. And now we're being tested. And I just feel like we all just need to believe in ourselves and believe in humanity, believe in our soul, and just realize that everything is a learning experience. So we got this. Just stay centered and don't take life for granted. Don't take people for granted. Don't take life for granted, and to be more present, to be more grounded, to live life beautifully, to practice what you preach. If we're talking about kindness and compassion, exercise kindness and compassion. When we're talking about, certain things, I find that like people, they're not very real with themselves. And this whole entire process is about breaking down the boundaries, breaking down the self, detaching from what you're going to eventually leave, which is this vessel. So I would get right with my soul, and I would focus on that right now. Everybody could check out my art, my Etsy shop.
There will be a link in the description below.
Yeah, and that's really it. YouTube videos I'm just gonna start doing soon again. I just had to move. We were in a crazy situation before. We were actually dealing with a lot of transition and a lot of change, but I'm thankful that now I can focus on my art again.
All right, everybody. So I do hope that you all enjoyed this episode of A Psychedelic Point of View. If y'all did, leave it a like, subscribe to DMT Infinity, subscribe to Quantum Kitty, and hit that bell notification button to be notified each and every single time that I upload a brand new video and or do a live stream. And as always, I'm your host, DMT Infinity, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.